Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take a look here at Bitcoin, see what's going on, of course, help understand best practice and big picture. Now, in the big picture, obviously we're doing tremendously better, and we need to acknowledge that. We're going to take a look, of course, here today as far as, overextension, if there is such a thing here, of course, this continuation should continue, and also maybe takes a look at some larger time frames and ensure we're on the right track there as well, with some moving averages and maybe some relative strength. That being said, not a financial advisor. I love teaching people how to trade. I hope you can learn something here today. My goal and my passion is to always teach you to become a better trader, so I hope you can learn as much as possible. If you want to learn more, become a better, more effective, consistent trader, CryptoCache.tech is a website, link in the description below. Check that out in your own time. I have a Signal group, trading community, and trading academy. Thank you to every single member in my community right now. You are just an amazing part of my life. I appreciate you. All right, taking a look here at Bitcoin. So first thing to really kind of acknowledge is the fact that we are coming up here, if I recall correctly, getting closer to the 200-day SMA. Now that being said, we're well above the 50. 50 will continue to progress upwards. That's all well and good. But with the 200-day SMA kind of trending down here closer to about this key level Fibonacci retracement line at about 47,700, there's a great chance we might see somewhere between 47.7 and 48,200 as a resistance channel. Okay, so there's a good chance of that just based on the fact that the 200 is initially almost always a point of contention, and it takes a little while for the price to pass that. Plus, with us being a very large day yesterday, and again, obviously a nice continuation here today, there's a good chance we might actually see a correction here soon. Okay, now again, I hope we don't. I'd love to see it continue upwards, but once again, correction is almost necessary at this point because we've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is a 7th solid green day in a row. Yes, there's potential to go another 2, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 more days to the upside. But if we want this to really do well and sustain, we want some consolidation. And that consolidation needs to occur by coming down to bounce off this previous resistance of 46,000 and effectively use that as a support level. So there's a great chance if the price were to retrace, it'll come back down to 46,000 and hold, possibly wick down to 44,500, but that's probably a worst case scenario. At this point, we're definitely in the clear in a lot of ways. We got the confirmation we are looking for, both as a community, but just in general as a whole. Because anytime Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was spending a lot of time underneath 46,000, that was under the 50 RSI on the weekly. In fact, let me go ahead and pull this up here so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is a weekly chart, of course. And once again, I acknowledged previously, or we covered this rather, where we actually had a hidden bullish divergence, right? Where the RSI is higher here and actually lower in the most recent past. And what's interesting about that is we actually had a lower price point before, but a higher price currently. And what that basically just tells us is that it was way more overextended now than it should have been, considering the relative strength itself compared to last year. So this time last year, essentially, we had a lower price point, but the RSI was less oversold. What we're looking at now, and which is a really nice thing here, is if you look at the current RSI, we're back up over 50 on the RSI. That's extremely important, and the main reason why is just based on the simple fact that anytime you've seen the price previously under 50 in the RSI on the weekly, it's been in this bearish type of divergence. Okay, it's been pretty much bearish overall. So if we look at that, pretty synonymous in that sense. So what does that tell us? That tells us that a close above 50 on the RSI on the weekly is extremely important. That's also synonymous with 46,000 as well as a price action because it couldn't pass that point till it got up over 46. That said, it'll put us in a much better position overall, as well as the fact that we're above the 50-day SMA on the weekly as well here. So if you can see that, we closed above the weekly. So we're in very, very good shape right now. Okay. So I would say an extreme worst case scenario for Bitcoin is to come back down to wick down to 45,000, maybe 44.5, and then more than likely bounce essentially on the daily, perhaps even the weekly, off of 46,000. Because you gotta understand, this candlestick just started. It's basically just the last 24 hours of trading. So in that regard, we need to kind of acknowledge the fact that yes, a pullback is possible, but it's not going to be super strong or crazy or insane like we're kind of used to from before. I feel like the worst is over in a lot of ways, and we should be back on track here essentially based on that confirmation on the weekly, but also on the daily close too, right? So a good handful of things that are really positive there. I love to see that, and I think we should celebrate that. On the daily, keep this in mind too, we're testing 70 on the RSI. That could be another reason why the price is pulling back at about 47,700. It is getting overextended. Not to say it's a bad thing, because you can technically go up over 70 on the RSI, and Bitcoin has proven to do that before as well, but it's not usually a commonplace unless, of course, you consider that parabolic run in late 2020. So that being said, all in all, we're in good shape. We could expect a pullback here. We'll see if the 70 works as a resistance or if it can break through. If we can get the price up to the 200-day SMA, possibly even close above that in the next 24 to 48 hours, then I would say that we're probably going to continue to maintain that level. But you got to understand, there's got to be some pullback that has to happen. We've seen small pullbacks in the smaller time frames, of course, don't get me wrong, but this is pretty much going consistently higher. And what we want to look at next is, how healthy is this continuation? Is this a continuation that will continue, right? Because yes, we've seen an increased amount of volume, which is extremely important, but we're also starting to see Bitcoin dominance recede here, which is great for altcoins, but there is a potential that there might be a sell-off coming. Again, not trying to concern you. I don't think it's going to happen. Really, if it were to, 46,000 is probably the most immediate potential support that we could experience getting tested. Because it's really common for a previous resistance level, such as 46,000, to get broken hard, which this strength here, of course, lies in the fact that there was a lot of short squeezes. There was like, what, 10 to 15 million shorts that got liquidated yesterday at that point. Okay, so that liquidation essentially caused the price action to shoot a lot higher. But keep in mind, somebody's going to be out for blood soon and try to take their profits. There's just no other way around it. It has to happen. And my guess, again, it might be something like this. A pretty subtle, nice correction of maybe 1 or 2,000 to come and bounce off of support. But generally speaking, what I'm getting at is 46,000 was a strong resistance, or strong resistance before, and it should work as a strong support level moving forward. Okay. Again, it was a previous support established as a resistance recently. Therefore, we can kind of understand that we're back on the right side. And to me, honestly, we've been talking about this a lot as a community. 46,000 is a point of importance, right? Being above 46,000 kind of gives us that confidence we're back on track with the market. And I'm not trying to be too premature, because yes, this is only about 12 to 24 hours in the making. So truth be told, we don't have an absolute confirmation, but we're darn near really close. And with this increased amount of volume, as well as being back up over 50 in the RSI on the weekly, there's really, really good factors here. If you look at the 4-hour here as well, we can also see this trend line moving synonymous with the 50-day SMA. That's very standard. So once again, the price were to come back down, heaven forbid, 44.5 would be the absolute lowest, and 46,000 would be the more immediate support level. Okay. Now, to touch on 47,400, you can see it's definitely testing and initially got rejected, but it's pushing a second time here. So there's a chance that this could very well come up and break through this right now. Now, we have to wait a little while and see. I personally feel like a pullback would be fairly necessary. I mean, I think there's going to be a pullback soon. But once again, nothing quite significant. So I would recommend, if you're going to be patient, that might be a smart call here. But if you're planning to get into the market, I would just make sure that you don't go all in, and ensure that you have you take some profits if you haven't already, because once again, this does appear to be somewhat on the overextended side. And let's go ahead and take a look at that here. So according to the 4-hour time frame, right, yesterday the price was down at about 44,200. It ramped up after about 20 hours of trading, roughly, or 24, to about 44,500. Then out of nowhere, took off and completely liquidated a bunch of shorts, and roughly 12 hours later, correction, 24 hours later, the price is still on the increase. Okay, so if you kind of do the math there and you add that all together, we're talking about a day and a half's worth of continuation to the upside here, and we're now in overtime. Okay, so to me, when we have that much push on a 4-hour time frame, as well as the fact that the RSI is extremely overextended, because I don't love a 4-hour RSI overextension personally. I think that it's okay on the 1 day, but on the 4-hour it can be typically very tumultuous or adverse, because anytime you see the RSI up over 70 in the past, it's come down fairly hard. But, right, so there's a big but there, because of the fact that now that we're above, it could be considered a support level too. Okay, so again, I know that seems kind of contradictory, but generally speaking, having an RSI over 70 is traditionally a recipe for, I wouldn't say a complete disaster. I don't think the bottom's going to drop out, but I do think we could expect and should expect a pullback. It would be kind of naive not to. Again, this is just traditional trading tactics that I'm referring to here. They're not guaranteed in cryptocurrency. They have a tendency of being very, very opposite of what you expect them to be. Okay, so this could very well continue higher. But should it? No. Bitcoin should not continue much higher than this, of course. And I love to see this. It's a nice continuation. Don't get me wrong. This is fairly healthy. Everything leading into this has been very good, right? A nice staircase type of pattern. That's what I love to see. But with this amount of volume here, I would be surprised if we don't see some type of correction soon. That's just my speculation there. So just, again, proceed with caution. Try not to just get careless and just throw all your money in. But on the same accord, it's not terrible to consider adding to your position now, because the price is more likely to go up in the overall sense of the concept of the bullish trend that we're in now versus the price retracing significantly. Because if the weekly is any indication of where we're at in the position overall, 50 on the RSI on the weekly should now be a support level. Therefore, 46,000 should be the bottom. And we should be in good shape here moving forward in that sense. So again, pullback, like I say, it might be maybe about 1 or 2%, or correction, maybe about 3%, probably at best. And then we could expect a price to the upside. So what I'm hoping will happen is the price gets rejected here, slowly tapers off, and then roughly 24 to 48 hours from now, we're at 46,000. We can add to our position and effectively take a position to the upside, right? But between now and then, again, this is a momentum play, for lack of better terms. There's definitely a lot of momentum, and the likelihood of it slowing down is pretty low. But once again, you have to have some kind of pullback in order for this to continue. All right, let's look at the 1 hour and just go ahead and call it a day after that. TD sequential on 1 hour is telling us, hey, we hit a 9 and we're on a 7 right now. This is kind of going hand in hand with what I'm talking about previously as far as overextension is concerned. So we've got 9 hours of continuation here, goes sideways, tries to consolidate, but pushes up again, gets a little greedy. What I mean by that is that anytime you see TD sequential hit 2 9s in a row, majority of the time, I would probably say about 90-95% of the time, you're going to see a correction from there. And what I mean by correction is it'll likely come back down to the most recent support level. So we should experience a correction down to 46,000. There's almost, I wouldn't say it's a guarantee, but there's a very strong likelihood based on the fact that we're overextended here initially, didn't get enough consolidation, continued to push up higher, and a second overextension, essentially hitting another 9 on TD sequential, tells us we could expect a pullback, or at least the pullback is greater. Again, all of these things that we're seeing here, and all these examples I'm giving you, they're just they're statistics that are not 100%, right? Nothing is foolproof 100% in crypto, or just trading in general, and we've got to acknowledge that, but in general, Bitcoin is exuding overextended behavior here, and we got to respect the fact that we could expect a pullback, and the probability is higher than it is lower, right? So in other words, we're over 50% probability with everything we've seen so far that the price will probably correct itself, then it would continue higher. All right, so again, there's that. So just take that with a grain of salt, of course, no guarantees, but that's essentially where we're at. But bottom line, Ichimoku Cloud is telling us we want to keep our position open. There's no reason to sell at this point because we're obviously very profitable, and that every indication is telling us that we are in good shape here to hold our position open. All right. So again, until the price comes down here and tests the cloud and possibly even breaks through the cloud, then we don't need to be worried, right? Or more likely, we probably shouldn't add to our position until the price comes down. That's just my speculation. That's how I'm approaching this here. Again, I hope I'm wrong and the price continues higher. In fact, the fact that it's been testing this level here 3 hours in a row is a pretty sure sign that it's trying to break that resistance too. So once again, are we going to see a breakout to the upside? We very well could. But I would love to see a pullback, and it'd be much better in the overall sense of this continuation being as overextended as it is to allow it to calm down and breathe. That's the important thing there. So once again, more volume accumulation at about 46,000 would be great, and we can kind of go from there. So I hope that this made sense and you kind of found benefit, of course, because I know it's kind of tricky the way that things work, and when you have a price that just keeps continuing going higher, it's hard to anticipate when it's going to come back down. Again, I don't think it's going to come down significantly if it were to 46,000. All right, so again, thanks so much for joining me here. Hope you had a good learning experience. If you want to learn a lot more, become a better trader, CryptoCache.tech. I got a trading academy, community, and signal group. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.